Alanna Gurr is a musician, singer, and songwriter who is based in her hometown of Guelph, Ontario. She and her band, The Great Estate, have just released a new EP on Missed Connection Records. It's called Stand Still, and it has prompted Gurr to play a few shows over the coming months. Alanna and I met at the CFRU studios in Guelph recently, where we discussed things like her band, Cupcake Duct Tape, and Steph Yates, but not the band Esther Gray. Not at all. Alanna's gig as a piano tuner came up, and she talked about what it's like dealing with people who want their pianos tuned. The lure of St. John's, Newfoundland, misogyny in music scenes, and much more. Sponsored by Pete's Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee, this is Alanna Gurr on the 326th episode of Creative Control with your host, me, Vish Khanna. Hi, Alanna. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for being back on the show.
I'm happy to be, yeah.
I think the last time you were on, we were talking about your band Esther Gray. Is that probably right? No, not Esther Gray.
Cupcake Duct Tape with Esther Gray.
Steph.
Yes.
Why did I say that?
It's okay.
I feel like I always get Steph. I know Steph so well. You know Steph so well.
Yeah.
But because she named their band after a person, and then I'm just trying to talk to people, I get it confused in my head. I think I did it live once when I was introducing them.
It's okay. You know what? Actually, when Steph and I were touring together, and I was spending so much time with her that someone, it was in Newfoundland, introduced himself, and they were like, "Hi, I'm Mike." And I said, "Oh, hi, I'm Steph." And I was standing right beside Steph. And just like, what? You just introduced yourself as me.
So Steph has this mysterious identity in some
Yes.
ways, and she becomes Esther Gray. She becomes Alanna Gurr somehow, and she needs to find herself so that we can figure out who she is.
Yeah, it's not our problem.
How is Steph?
She seems well.
Good,
yeah.
good.
We haven't been playing with Cupcake Duct Tape for a bit. We've been taking a bit of a hiatus for each of us to kind of work on our own respective bands, but
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to starting Cupcake Duct Tape up again.
Is it just because it's kind of it's an assertive sound? It's I know it started kind of as a way. I remember the last time Steph was saying she was trying to motivate you to kind of assert yourself in some ways and sound, what was it, brattier, angrier?
All of those things.
All of those
Bratty
things,
was
right.
like the main kind of objective
Right.
in that. And I'm sure my mom could say otherwise, but I have a hard time doing that now as an adult. But it was a good exercise to like get myself to be louder because I talk very quiet.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of, now that I'm playing my own music and back with my own band, I think it ruined my voice a little bit. Like I can't hit some of the notes.
Really?
And I think it was fun, but I had to take a break from yelling so much a bit. And I can imagine how hard it is for people who are yelling all the time in their music.
So it actually had a profound physical impact on you, a visceral impact. Wow.
I really went for it, I think. Yeah.
You did, yeah. Anytime I saw it, you were going for it, and you're right. You need a break because your own pursuits are different.
Yes.
They're quieter on some levels. Some level, and the EP that you just put out is great.
Thank you.
And you made it with Andy McGoffin.
I did, yeah.
You've worked with him before?
Our last album we recorded with Ian Romano.
Oh,
and
yes.
Dan Romano. And then we mastered it with Andy McGoffin.
Okay.
At his place in Preston.
Yeah, the House of Miracles. That's where I'm from, Cambridge. Preston is a part of Cambridge, Ontario.
Okay.
I know it mostly because I used to play minor hockey there.
Okay.
For some reason, they set me up in. You know what? It was probably cheaper.
Yeah.
It was probably cheaper than Galt or Hespeler, which are the other areas in Cambridge. And my parents set me up in Preston, so that's my main memory of. Oh, and also Riverside Park had. Did you go to the park? It's right by the House of Miracles in Preston. It's like a big park. It's huge.
I didn't know.
Oh, it's a lovely park.
Yeah.
Riverside. I know we have a Riverside in Guelph.
Yeah.
There's also a Riverside in Cambridge.
Okay.
And it's where they used to do all the fireworks for Canada Day and whatever else.
Oh, that'd be nice.
So we would go down to Riverside Park in Preston, and that's my main memories of it. Did you like that? Andy's place is kind of it's like downtown Preston.
So it's downtown Preston, which is kind of a weird place because it's got all this. There's beautiful buildings there, but it's just all like there's nothing in. A lot of the stores are closed down. Mm-hmm. And then he's got this, I think it's an old Scout building or like Boy Scout or something. And it's a stone space that has like a fireplace and beautiful wood. So when we're there, we kind of just spend the whole time in a cave.
Right. It's
there.
dark.
Yeah.
It's a little dark. There's not a lot of daylight. And I've been in there as well. Yeah. But he's a great guy to work with.
Yeah.
And he's, this is interesting because I ran into him with my son last week on the street, and I haven't seen Andy in a while. And I have a history with Andy. I made a record with Andy in an old band of mine, and we've been friends for almost 20 years, I guess now. And anyway, I hadn't seen him in a while, and I ran into him on Carden Street, and he said, "You know what I'm doing now is I'm tuning pianos."
I saw, yeah.
And if you can spread the word about that, that would be great, because I don't think a lot of people know him as a recording engineer. He got into mastering records, as you were saying. You worked with him on that initially, and now he's tuning pianos, and I thought immediately of you, Alanna Gurr, because you are known around town as a piano tuner yourself.
Yes. Yeah. So, I've actually, like, Andy and I have had a bunch of conversations about pianos because he's really into the restoration process. Mm-hmm. And he's built 3, I think, at his own studio, grand pianos, redone them. And I've done 1.5. You've restored a piano? Yeah.
Wow.
So I really love that part of it, but I don't have the shop space available. I did it at in my parents' dining room. I rebuilt a grand piano over the winter and then resold it and fix up another one. So for me, I don't have the space. For him, it's perfect because he's got the room and really loves getting into it. So it's nice to have someone nearby that I can talk to about. I've borrowed tools and he's borrowed tools.
So the obviously a major aspect of restoring a piano would be the tuning part, but that other stuff that you say, like, do you have a background in I actually don't know. You mentioned you had to borrow tools. Like, what is the kind of vocational background you would need to restore a piano? Like, do you need some kind of engineering skill? Do you need, carpentry? What is it? Like, because there's some wood in there, and there's lots of components to a piano that I can't even articulate to you because I don't know enough about it. Like, do you have that background?
You can come from different, traditionally it would have been piano restoration and would have been something that you would have learned from your father or done an apprenticeship in, and not many. Oh,
there's it's a specialty. Like you would be a piano restoration artist,
a technician. Yeah,
technician.
People call it that.
Okay.
But I chose the route of going to school because I couldn't find anyone that could take me on. It's a lot of work and money. So there's a program at Western University. So it was 10-month, 8 to 5 every day, learning about the rebuilding process and then tuning afterwards. So we did a lot of woodwork, a lot of, you basically have to take the plate out, you clean it up, and then you restring everything, you put in new bridges, they're called.
Strings, they have the strings as well?
The strings is the hardest part.
Right. Because it's a tension-based thing, right?
Yeah. And so you can I've had strings on a grand piano snap when I'm tuning it and then just hit the wall beside me. It's pretty scary, but you can't really get hurt. But
you can't really. You could probably get hurt.
You could probably get hurt. They normally snap the other way.
The other way. You're tuning from the front.
From the front on a grand piano.
Yeah. You're tuning by the keys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just loud. It's just scary.
That sounds scary. I mean, a guitar string can whack you in the eye if you're not careful as well. So okay, I mean. This is I'm surprised that the Western Universities in London, Ontario, that's where you went for this?
Yes, I did, yeah.
And was it a well-attended program? You have a lot of fellow colleague student things?
It's very small.
Yeah.
I did my undergrad at Western and I had never heard of it. It's basically in the basement of the music department.
Right.
And it's run by, at the time I went there, the head technician for the Royal Conservatory in Toronto.
Right.
His name's Don Stevenson, and he's an awesome man, but he is very much a character, had like long white hair going out and like kind of googly-eyed glasses and stuff, and really confident, a good person. But he...
Do you point this out because he comes from another era kind of thing?
He seems like it.
Yeah,
but,
like a Doc Brown from Back to the Future?
Like after I graduated, I went back and visited him just to say hi, like check in and say hi, and we ended up having scotch in his office, and he brought out some cheese and things like that.
That kind of guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's a bit of a character.
Yeah.
Do you have to be kind of a character to get into piano tuning, piano restoration? Because I mean, we live in this digital age. On some level, some of these things, some of these skill sets are, I don't want to say the skill sets are being phased out, but some of the, people today would be like, I'm fine with a digital or electric piano, you know what I mean? But is there a resurgence in interest in this, or has it never subsided? Because I think there was a mistake that a lot of people made about vinyl records, where a lot of people would say, oh, that form is dead. Like that medium is dead. And it turned out that wasn't true. I mean, the sales had decreased on some level, but the medium has been around forever. Mm-hmm. Is there some similar parallel for an analog instrument like a piano?
I think so. I think, on the question of, the kind of people that would take a program like that, I found that it was either myself, who's very much like a romantic and likes older things, or someone who, there's quite a lot of people in the program who are very religious, and they came from estates and they work for churches. Oh, so I hadn't even thought of that. Kind of two different sides to that. And then, and I'm pretty busy. Like there's two
This
other
is your main
tuners.
gig, right?
Yeah.
You tune pianos.
So everyone has a piano that their aunt gave them or their grandma, and then a lot of younger people are wanting them now too. I have a lot of friends who are asking me to find them. So I think people enjoyed digital pianos when it was like an easy thing to be able to have in an apartment. Yeah. But you can't really replace the warmth and the sound that a real piano has. And I do have people, I tune by ear, so I don't have perfect pitch. A lot of people ask if that's something that you should have as a tuner, but I think most pianos that are old, you can't tune to perfect pitch anymore. Like, you have to work with kind of what you have. So for me, it's good, but I've tuned at studios where they need it exactly to be like digital tuning, so you have to use a digital tuner to tune it, and I can't do it by ear then. But otherwise, most people just want it to sound like how the tuner wants it to sound, kind of.
So forgive me, I'm fascinated by this, and this is something you do, and it probably informs your worldview. Tuning pianos, restoring pianos, the fact that you like old things. Just walk me through this for a second. Sure. I'm an idiot. Like, I don't know enough about pianos. I know how to tune a guitar. Mm-hmm. I know physically what you have to do to tune a guitar. You've got the tuning pegs, and you got to figure it out, and you do it. Yeah. How do you tune a piano? How do you actually, are you hitting every key? What are you doing?
You are, so...
You're hitting every key?
Every key, more than once, because every key, not in the bass, but up in the treble, every key has 3 strings. Right. And you have to tune each string in tune with each other, and then in tune with the rest of the piano. Okay. So it's kind of just like put it in like simple terms. Like, I start with the A440 tuning fork. Okay. And I isolate all the strings from each other, and I would tune the middle string on the A key to the tuning fork. Okay. Okay. And you've done this before, I'm sure. Like, if you're playing 2 strings on a guitar, you can hear kind of like a wah-wah sound.
That's right. Yeah.
So I tune by equal temperament tuning, and if you press the A and the F on the piano in the middle register, it should be 7 beats per second, so 7 wah-wahs.
7 wah-wahs. Okay, you're listening for the wah-wahs.
It's like, wah.
Right.
So I'm listening for the wah-wahs, and then I know that should be 7. F sharp and A sharp should be 7.5. 8 going up in increments, so it gets just a little bit faster in between those. And then I make sure, there's a few different other measurements, but that's the general idea. And then you make sure the middle octave is perfect, and then you tune everything out by the octave.
Right.
This is the way I do it.
And pianos go out of tune frequently?
They kind of with
from
the
usage?
seasons.
Oh, with the seasons.
Yeah, so when the humidity changes in your house, it's all the tuning pins are put into the wood block behind it. So when the humidity is changing in your house, it's changing the wood is moving in the piano and it's turning.
I see. Okay.
The tuning pins.
So are you frequently brought in to tune the same piano over the course of time?
There's people that I go every year.
Every year.
Which is kind of the ideal, because then if you do it every year, it's not going to go crazy.
Out of tune.
There's other people who call me and they're like, my piano hasn't been tuned since 1972. I need it done tonight because my mother-in-law is coming, and like, it's a tuning emergency.
A tuning emergency.
I get a lot of those. And then there's other people who want it every 6 months because they play often and they really notice the change.
So by usage, I mean, you mentioned the humidity and the elements, but if you're using it enough, it'll go out of tune.
Yeah, if you're really pounding on it, it will probably more than
like if Jerry Lee Lewis in his prime is playing the piano for 9-10 hours a day, he's probably going to need it tuned. Well, maybe he wouldn't even notice. I don't know. He was a bit of a raucous guy.
Yeah. He might, though.
He might have noticed, yeah. Do you go into situations where people are maybe not the most experienced musicians and you're just like, holy crap, this is out of tune?
Yes.
It happens a lot?
Very often, yes.
And are they aware of that?
No. And I've definitely learned a lot of, like I've always had a second or third job in the service industry, and I thought that my customer service skills were from that, but having to navigate a conversation with someone in their own home where you're right, but they think something else is really tricky. Like I don't ever like conflict, and you're trying to work. So when someone says, I've called you in to do this job, I don't think it needs to be done, but kind of thing.
Why would they call you in to tell you what?
Well, so if a piano is really out of tune, it needs what's called a pit trace.
Oh. Is that expensive?
It's more expensive than a normal one. So often people, if they don't use it much, they say, oh, well, we don't need that. But it's kind of defeating the purpose of having me in the first place. So I try to give like a little bit of an educational perspective when I do it. But it is just hard when you're in someone's home. You don't ever want to sound like more than them.
I imagine the vocational parallels between yourself and a car mechanic, or any other real expert in their field, where someone is just, they think they know it because they Googled it or whatever.
Yeah.
You must have to. Do you ever commiserate with people in other fields who are like? I
haven't, but maybe I should.
You should maybe start a little group of people dealing with know-it-all know-it-all clientele. Yeah. I like I say, I freely admit I don't know enough about pianos. Like if I had an upright or a grand piano, I would defer to you. Yeah. I mean, I'm a deferrer. If I don't know something, I am deferential. I'm like, I don't know enough about this. I think I can tell you what I'm noticing, and I try to identify it, but I like to defer. But I can see where some people would be like, no, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Have you had an experience where someone is clearly an incredible piano player, but they don't have a sense of the tuning issues? I've
met some really interesting people, and I'm mostly like 80% of the time I'm going in and I'm tuning pianos that are more pieces of furniture, to be honest.
Right. There's something that someone has in their living room.
Yeah, but I do some churches, and I've done like stuff for the school board and stuff. So I've gotten to meet different levels of players. Sure. I've always wanted to like start up like a weird blog, because I have had some really like weird times meeting people, but most of the people are wonderful. It's the same if you're working at a bar. Like most of the regulars are great, and then there's one guy who comes in and
you've had this in the service industry, right?
Too much, yeah.
right. You deal with probably 70% normal people, normal like interactions, like fairly unmemorable, but then you get the 30%.
Yeah.
I'm just making up stats for now. Is that accurate? Is it mostly like ordinary?
Yes. but the bad always outweighs the good.
Yeah,
That's what
it's
you
true.
remember when you go home. So that's kind of the frustrating part of working in a bar. At least.
Have you been reviewed as a musician? Because I get feedback every once in a while about something I'm doing, and I always remember the negative.
Oh, yeah.
If someone's a great job, I'm like, that just kind of, I'm like, yeah, thank you, or whatever, quietly, or I might articulate thanks. But the one where someone's like, ugh,
Yeah.
always remember that. I don't know if that makes me, I mean, I guess that's an insecurity thing, but I also just remember it because it feels weirdly more honest than platitude. Just like, you're good. Anyone, that's what you say, no matter, you probably get it when you're playing with bands too. You come off stage and they're like, great show.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone says that.
And I say it.
You say it too. In that environment, you're like, great job. You were trying to be supportive.
Yeah.
But then the next day, if you read a review of it and someone's like, well, they didn't do this that great, you can be like, well, at least, but is that more honest? Is it more angry? You know what I mean? I mean, you're dealing with people all the time. I feel like the negative stuff, you said it yourself, like, why do we fixate on the negative? Do you have an insight on that?
I just personally, I have went through something recently where we played a show and there was a promoter, and when I got there, they took me aside and said, just so you know, you only pre-sold this many tickets. The last show we sold a lot more. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go have a good show now, I guess, because all I'm going to be thinking about is, oh, no one wanted to come to our show. Like, I don't know. That was partly on me too. I mentioned it to my bandmate and they're like, well, don't think about that. There is a lot of people here. It was a weird night. People were out of town. But I personally always do end up, I'm self-conscious. I look at those things.
Yeah, I do too. And we are in a metric-based culture, right? Where you can see all the plays and it's frustrating because you're just like, but I think the thing I made is good. Like, there's nothing wrong with the thing I made, I think.
Yeah, and you spent so much time on it and money.
Yeah, exactly. You said something there where you were talking about how you might want to start a blog about your experiences with people, I think is what you were indicating there. Does your experience as a piano tuner or your experience in the service industry, does it inform you as an artist? Does it inform your songs?
My songs are definitely personal. I always tend to, with the last album, I was kind of in a place where I was like looking at myself in relationships. So that really didn't...
personal relationships. Yeah. What was the last record called?
Like this one, the one that we're putting out now? Or
no, are you talking about the new EP? Or are you talking about the
new EP? Yeah.
The new EP is about the relationships.
They kind of all are, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what I tend to write about.
Like romantic interpersonal relationships. Yeah. Okay, you don't necessarily.
Or a relationship with myself, like kind of looking at my own character.
Right, which again we talked about with the Cupcake Duct Tape interview. Even with Steph trying to say like, you need to potentially explore this side of your personality. That's just something as an artist you're doing. Yeah. A lot of.
Yeah.
When I hear a song like Holy Roller, I can't help but think of what we were just talking about. And I don't know what that song's about necessarily specifically, but my impression is it's about someone who thinks they're better than everyone else. Yeah. I mean, that's one aspect of what Holy Roller means. Someone who's righteous, self-righteous maybe, and thinks that they are the way and the light. Yeah. But in the context of what we were talking about in terms of people being dickish in their sense of self compared to you perhaps or others, that's immediately what I thought of like maybe you out in the world dealing with jackasses. Yeah. Pretentious jackasses. But that's more of you're saying that's a personal relationship thing, potentially more than... the songwriting is, but I definitely take on like a lot of other people's emotions, and so if I have one little instance with someone that maybe wasn't good, it just ruins my whole day. It's like it's hard to, I don't know, especially in service industry. Right, and you're out of that now. No, I still work at Royal City Brewery on the weekends, which is an awesome place to work. Like most people who come in there are excited to come in and... What's your role there? Drink beer. I'm front of house. So front of house at a brewery. Yeah. But is it a bar? They have a bar and like a tasting room. Is that where you work?
I work there, yeah,
Oh,
on
okay.
the weekends.
So you're dealing with customers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And most people there are like happy to come in because it's kind of a niche, fun thing to go do. But I've been working in restaurants since I was like 15, so it's just, yeah.
Just something you do.
Yeah.
Okay. And as are you from Guelph?
I am, yeah.
I think we've established this before. You're born and raised?
Born and raised, yeah.
And you've stayed?
I went away for school. I went
Western?
away for 5 years.
To London?
To London.
Yeah.
And I lived in Toronto for a few summers with friends.
Mm-hmm.
But originally I came back to Guelph just... I grew up here, so I knew a lot of music teachers. I thought this would be a good place to start piano tuning.
Right.
And was kind of... I've on and off really been wanting to move to the East Coast. Like that's...
Oh.
Where I romanticize kind of living.
Nova Scotia or?
I wanted Halifax for a long time, and then I thought St. John's, Newfoundland.
And you've been?
I've been quite a bit. Yeah, I have family there and play music there.
Have you played the Lanya Vanya thing?
I have not. No.
Oh, you haven't played that festival?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's generally my reference point for St. John's because I tend to go almost every year.
Yeah. I'd love to play it sometime, but I've always ended up going in the fall.
Oh, I see. Okay. And your family's there?
And I have cousins there, yeah.
Yeah. It's lovely.
It's beautiful, and it's very kind of the pace I like of living sometimes.
How would you describe that pace?
Well, I what I love about Guelph is like I can walk around, I can see people downtown that I know, or like go get coffee and talk to that person, and I find that St. John's is an even smaller community, especially in the winter. At least the way that my cousins have described it is like they have their neighbors over for dinner and stuff like that because you can't really go out as much. So
the elements are pretty harsh,
yeah,
almost all year round. I think. I mean, you really, from what I can gather from talking to people, like when the sun is out or it's warm, you really relish that time because it's so rare.
Yeah.
So the elemental aspect doesn't frighten you. You find it kind of alluring.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm either out and like enjoying the sun, or I want to be at home cuddled up with a book, or
sure.
I'm either like a young person or a very old lady.
Right. Okay. So you have lived elsewhere. You have some aspiration to potentially move at some point to another city, but Guelph has been home. Yeah,
it definitely. Because of traveling with music over the last few years, I feel like I've seen a lot of Canada. Mm-hmm. And if I was to be in Ontario, this is my favorite city. Yeah. So I've decided to stay here for kind of long term.
Do you do a thing? This actually is something that sticks with me as someone who's toured as well. Do you judge a city or grade a city by the show you played?
Oh, yeah.
So if someone was like, oh, Calgary is a beautiful city, and you're like, I play the Palomino. Yeah. Not a good show. No. I don't think I could live there. Is that your mentality?
Yeah. I mean, like,
isn't that weird?
The food was good at the Palomino,
sure.
But otherwise, the people were kind of rude. So
have you played the Palomino?
I have, yeah.
Was it a bad show?
It was
I just picked that randomly just so people understand. I played the Palomino. It was all right, but
the venue was nice. They gave us like huge dinner.
It's a barbecue
upstairs,
joint. Yeah, you can get mac and cheese and whatever ribs and all that stuff. Yeah,
but the downstairs is really big.
Yeah,
and we were opening for someone, so luckily, like they had a big kind of crowd there already. But it wasn't a great show for me. Yeah, I'm more quiet. I was playing solo. I did like a month-long like tour out west.
This is
solo.
It's so random that I just picked one city and one venue in Canada, and you actually have a story. I guess my point was, don't you think if you can step back and look at us, isn't it weird to judge a whole city on one show you played on one night while you were traveling?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that's not good for us?
But I'm sure other people do it. They're like, oh, that Tim Hortons in Wawa, Ontario. Not a fan.
Not a
Dirty
fan.
bathrooms.
I will not be living there. It's funny, like how careful you'd have to be to run a city and have people visiting and have I got a speeding ticket in Nelson, BC. I'm never going back there again.
Drivers.
Isn't that weird? Like it's so, but I guess the touring life is such a blur rather, that you remember things that stick out, and some of them can be negative things, and then that's your just impression of it.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing. It's a weird sleep deprived kind of mental state of a musician, of just like, I have a vague memory that I didn't like that place and I don't know why, even though it might be a lovely place to live.
I find the coffee factors in too.
Really?
Yeah.
I had one bad coffee. I'm never going back
No,
to that city again. That's weird. So you could go to New York City.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the pizza. I had a bad slice of pizza, even though it's known as, the pizza capital of North America. Yeah. You just never
go back.
Never go back. So Guelph has changed a lot in the time I've been here, which is about 20 years. Mm-hmm. You've been here your whole life. What do you make of the city in its current state? You're someone who likes pianos. Mm-hmm. You're someone who likes older things, and some level that indicates a relationship with time. Mm-hmm. Whether you enjoy change or not, I don't know. Talk about Guelph a little bit, just from a lifelong resident's perspective.
Well, I guess on the music scene, I've seen definitely like the styles in Guelph have changed. I find when I first moved back from university, which was like 2010. Mm-hmm. I found it was a lot more kind of like folky music was playing a lot of shows. And then like people moved out of town, new bands started, and now it's kind of more, for a while it was like a lot of very like dude-centric, like kind of harder bands. And in Guelph? In Guelph, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wait,
and just depending on like who's promoting shows and stuff. And I don't really know what it is now, what the style is around. But like because I used to play more kind of folky music, I have people from out of town contacting me being like, oh, who's a good band to play with? And I'm like, I actually don't really know. There's not really
I'm in the same situation. People ask me as well, and I'm like, I'm not exactly sure what to tell you, or even where to play sometimes anymore. Yeah,
it's changed a lot. And we used to, like, I remember when I was younger, I would go to shows at the Cornerstone all the time because they were doing shows like Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights.
Yeah.
That was a big place for like people to kind of start playing music too, and that's where I started playing music. And
was it actually a musician-friendly place to play? I'm not trying to disparage the venue, but it's a restaurant, cafe, and if you're a quieter artist, there's not really a stage. You just kind of set up in a window. Yeah. Depending on how they configure the thing, and you're either, in my experience, the shows were either right by the bathroom, which is great as a musician to be playing right near 4 bathrooms, or you're in a little enclosed window space at the very front of the venue, and you're kind of you're maybe even a side bar to most people's nights because they just came to order food. And I mean, is that what's your experience been like playing there? Or playing such places even?
Pretty different, actually. Like, I was very supported when I started playing music there. I also worked there when I was younger, so I had some friendly faces.
Okay.
And I think at the time when I was starting, like, if you played there, you got free dinner, and you got a few drinks.
Yeah, that's true.
And he paid you.
Yeah, you're treated well. Yeah.
Doesn't happen anywhere else. Like, a lot of places now, you have to pay to play if you don't make enough money at the bar.
When you walk in, they tell you about your pre-sales.
Yeah. Still mad about that one.
That's a really bad situation, yeah.
And I get it. But anyway.
Well, it's a business, right?
Yeah, it is.
But there's no point in it worrying an artist before they're about to play with anything.
Yeah.
And I will say, and I'm not trying to judge you, but you told your band before the show too, didn't you?
Yeah. Because I was mad.
You were angry, but I do think I'm at a point where I'm like, if I have bad news for people I'm working with, I try to wait till we're done something and then tell them the bad news. Unless it's like really pertinent. Yeah. Sorry.
Maybe I'll do that next time.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to judge you. I just, I think when you have that, because you're the manager of a business, being the front of Alanna Gurr and the Great Estate. So you have to kind of, I'm sure it must be difficult keeping a band focused and happy.
Yeah, it's hard because everyone in my band now is going through a lot of life changes. Like, one got married, one's having a baby, another one's getting married, and like everyone has a lot going on in their life, and then they have to normally take off work early and get to where I'm asking them to go, and generally not get paid that much money because there's a bunch of us in the band, and
Right.
we have to split it, and so to like get everyone in a good mood before you even get there is like a feat, and then to all have fun is once we start playing, I find that, like, I did it myself on Friday. We played at Aurora Brewery. I was just not having like that great of a day, but as soon as we get on stage and start playing music together, I'm like, oh well, this is why I went through all that to this. I have so much fun playing with these guys.
Right. So you mentioned the Cornerstone being supportive, other venues, maybe even in the city, being, available maybe, but not as supportive on some level. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth.
No,
but you were saying the Cornerstone paid you,
Yeah.
fed you, and treated you well, and in your early days. I guess you were saying you're not sure how to categorize the current state of the city in terms of music.
In terms of like kind of what the type of music is that people are playing,
Sure.
just back on the conversation of change, but also it's a bit hard to find. Like the amount of venues are smaller now, especially accessible venues.
Yeah,
and
there's not really.
do like to try and play those venues. But like for us, we found that the E-Bar is the best place for sound, and the amount of room that, like, for the people that we hope are coming, and it's still not an accessible space, so it's hard to kind of like balance those things.
Yeah, and you can't do a sound check there really.
Yeah, that's really tough. It's really
because they have a restaurant down below, and you have to wait till like 9 or 10 o'clock basically to make noise. It's kind of not an ideal situation, and I've talked about this a bunch on this show before, but I think other cities can probably relate to this notion.
And a lot of people, I've been having people write on our Facebook like, oh, I'd love to come to this, but it's too late.
The issue, the fundamental issue, have you seen this? There's a lot of dialogue now about how one way to salvage the music business, or at least the live music business, which I think has taken a bit of a hit, is to start shows earlier. Mm-hmm. Have you been seeing this stuff?
I have, and I am fully on board. It's just that it's like you have as many musicians on board, but it's the venues that are the ones dictating when we are allowed to play. So
yeah, it's frustrating that because you'd have to change a whole mindset of people showing up at 9 to see a show, as opposed to 10 or 11. If there's a show at the E-Bar, I sometimes don't leave my house till 11:15 because I know very little has probably happened until then, because the start time for a show is advertised, and then a lot of promoters wait for people to show up.
Yeah.
So nothing. Whereas a venue like when I go to, certainly theater shows start on time, but like Lee's Palace in Toronto will say such and such 9:15, such and such 10:15, and pretty much like clockwork it'll happen.
Yeah.
And they're getting their bar sales and all that stuff. It seems I'm not. By the way, I'm sure Lee's Palace, there's probably someone who has a problem with Lee's Palace. I'm just picking them because I know when I go to their website and it says when people are playing, it's going to be pretty accurate unless there's some issue. Yeah. And we don't have that here. It's just sort of randomly waiting on people. It's a smaller market, so you don't have the masses coming, but it can be frustrating.
Yeah. And there's also generally another show going on, so you're like
in
hoping
Guelph?
that people will go to one, maybe come to the other.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
You said something earlier about there being kind of a dude-centric aggro music thing at one point. As a woman, have you found it difficult to navigate the music infrastructure in our city in particular? I know that a lot of people have problems. A lot of women have expressed frustration and concern around the country, around the world, about how they're treated and whether or not there's actually equality. But what about Guelph?
I am very lucky with the people that I play with. Like everyone in my band is a man. I've never felt like kind of looked down on at my skill level with them. They've always been really...
The people in your bands? Yeah, that's good.
Pretty amazing guys to play with. And they're all very talented, so like I feel lucky. But with booking shows and like kind of being considered for shows, I've felt really sometimes like there's an imbalance there for sure. Like sometimes I might not even be considered for something, but I don't know, like that could also be just my style of music.
Sure.
Or yeah, I definitely have been frustrated though with like I don't know, every promoter in Guelph kind of is mostly a
dude.
And yeah, I don't want.
I appreciate you wanting to be diplomatic about this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put you on the spot. It's just something that I'm trying to address as much as possible on the show, because I just feel like these are voices that need to be, a voice like yours need to be heard on these issues, right? And I think that there has been a bit of incremental progress made by people just articulating these experiences, but I know it's a small town, and I'm not asking you to name names or anything. I just want I was just hoping rather for a general sense of how you feel. I mean, you mentioned playing this show where the promoter, and I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but they just made a point of telling you about your pre-sales, and that's, I mean, on some level that's a business thing. On some level, did you think, would they have said that to a guy? Like, would they have said that to a male performer? Like, why would they have said this to me? Like,
I definitely thought that when it happened, because I know, but also, I am being diplomatic. It's like an issue that really makes me angry, and I've had a lot of experiences. I'm just
in
also
town?
live in a small town.
In this town you've had. Right.
I definitely felt a difference when I did change the style of music I was playing, like between different bands. But like I've had someone say, "Oh, we want you to play this, but we don't want you to play with your band. We want you to play solo, but with an accompaniment." And I was like, "So you want me to play with a different band?"
What, your own? Someone was trying to produce your set? Yeah.
And then it was a good show. I wanted to play it. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll play solo, but with accompaniment. So I got instead a good friend of mine to like sing harmonies, and he made it kind of a different set. And then like the day before, I got asked, "So who's your band that's playing with you?" And I said, "Oh, I thought my band wasn't allowed to play. I was supposed to have accompaniment." And they're like, "Well," the words were like, "To be honest, my dear,
To be honest, my dear,
Jesus. You're pretty quiet, and we just want to make sure you can hold the room." And that just like broke my heart.
That's insane.
And I was like, the other person I was playing with was a single white guy with a acoustic guitar, and my first thought was this said to him too?
Yeah.
Like, was that ever thought, can that guy hold the room?
Yeah,
like,
right.
It made me really mad.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to upset you here.
No, it's okay, but you're right. It's a part of like playing too.
So did you just roll with that? Like, did you end up playing the show with the Great Estate, or did you end up just playing with a accompaniment, as you call it?
I played with accompaniment, yeah, because I wanted to play the show still.
How was the show?
It was pretty crappy because I was in a bad mood.
Yeah, because you were okay.
But anyway, yeah.
My dear.
I know.
That's the most. I don't even. Were they like a 90-year-old guy or something, like a promoter? That's insane.
This is at the library, and no.
Do you have any insight as to how stuff like that could be? I mean, other than people just not being jerks, man or woman, like, do you have a sense of what you'd like to see happen to alter this kind of behavior, or make the environment more pleasant to play with as a performer, as a woman? Do you have any insights there? I mean,
well, I've definitely seen from my own experiences with music and with just in the workplace, like if there's something said like that, it's often a lot easier. If I was to get angry about that, I don't think that person would see that what they said was wrong. Whereas if like the guy beside them said, I mean, this is,
they're not listening to a woman's voice,
would be heard a lot easier. So it's like to have allies in that music area as well that would be like, that's probably kind of a crappy thing to say. And But also, I think it would be really cool to see some more ladies like being able to have the space to be a promoter in town and stuff like that.
That doesn't interest you, does it?
I've done it a bit. Like Royal City Brewery's been pretty great. They were letting me do a music series once a month.
Oh, okay.
It was just like one show
that
once
was you?
a month. Yeah.
Okay, I saw that series, I believe.
Yeah, so we did it for a year. Took a little break because it's like kind of hard over the summer and whatnot. And it was fun, but yeah.
Not your thing necessarily, or like when you're an artist, I've done the same as you, I think, or I've tried to immerse myself in different aspects of the music biz just to try them. And also because like you, I've seen, at least when I was not a dad with 2 kids and multiple jobs, when I had the time, I felt like something feels like it's lacking here. Maybe I can add to this. Maybe I can actually fix a couple of things.
Yeah.
Was that kind of your impulse? Like, I'm not, some of the promotion seems very, I don't know, not that exciting and not very inclusive. Maybe I can help.
Yeah, that was a big part of wanting to do it. And with my friend Sonia, who also works at Royal City Brewery, we wanted to kind of make like a silent mandate that we wanted to have at least one woman on every bill.
Yeah.
And maybe invite some people that otherwise have hard times getting shows in Guelph because they don't really fit in with what Kazoo's doing or Fortnite, or like, not that it's a bad thing. We all have our kind of different themes.
Sure.
But just create that space. And it was fun. I just, we didn't have like that much funds, and I really wanted to be, if we're putting on shows, I want to make sure that I'm able to like pay the bands.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we just took a bit of a break to kind of like reevaluate if we can have some funds to do that and whatnot, because that would be pretty great. It's such a nice feeling to be able to pay musicians, knowing how much that means to a musician.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
because it's an undervalued art form in almost every other way. Yeah. You did say something about I guess you were making a reference to, allyship. This notion of a guy may not listen to you as a woman, but if another guy points out the same thing that you're pointing out as being maybe problematic or an issue, they might be more attentive. So do you, by that token, I mean, obviously that's not the end. I think the end game would be to have more women in positions of power.
Yes.
But do you think that men who recognize these things need to be doing more? Like recognizing these issues because they do have the power on some level now because they're men, often they're white men.
Yeah.
Would it be useful if they spoke up more and did more to try to alleviate these issues?
I think it's so hard. Like, it's such a big discussion because that's also then not leaving space for the people whose voices...
Right, of course.
...that should be there. But I just think that in the reality, and I've seen it happen in my own life, where it's like someone's talked to me a certain way and I've voiced, that makes me uncomfortable, and it doesn't change. And then my friend at work, who's a dude, says, hey man, that wasn't really cool, and then that guy comes and apologizes to me or something. Like, it is the way that it works right now at some point. So there could be little things like that where if you're sitting beside someone and they're telling like a sexist joke, you could be like, it's not really funny. Like, yeah, totally. Those little things will make that person embarrassed and maybe think twice about saying it next time.
Yeah, I can say for myself, not necessarily in this regard, I hope anyway, but I'm trying to catch myself more when I feel like I'm in any capacity, in any context. Like maybe it's a product of the age we live in where we have to, I want to be more self-aware, more enlightened about whatever issue, and I'm trying to, if someone says something like, hey, I'm like, you know what? Like my 15 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about. But as you get, maybe I'm just old, but I'm starting to soften and trying to be more attentive to these kinds of concerns. And when people point out aspects of your personality, because what you're doing in some cases is being like, you're being a jerk by telling that joke. And what I'm actually saying is that joke is an extension of you and your personality.
Yeah.
that's a hard thing for someone to take in the moment. So when someone else says, hey, just so you know, like I saw that interaction and you are being terrible. Maybe it just takes a couple of people, sometimes to say these things. I'm not making apologies for the jerks, but I do think sometimes we tend to argue with each other a little bit one-on-one, but if some other perspectives come into play, which I think is happening a lot more in a healthy way, like people could be curating a festival when someone says, hey, you don't have enough underrepresented people, their knee-jerk reaction to be like, well, it's really hard and I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
But then if a plurality of voices come into the fore, they're like, okay, maybe there's a point to this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a roundabout way of saying, I wanted to hear your voice I know it's uncomfortable and it's not the point of this interview where we're talking about your new EP. But I do think that I wonder about what's going on in the city, because the more I like to think of it as a beautiful, lovely, inclusive, community-oriented music scene.
Yeah.
But the more I talk to women about their experiences here, the more troubled I am. Yeah. And as someone like yourself who's been here the whole time, been in the city the whole time, and like you say, you've played in different kinds of bands, I just thought your perspective would be useful.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to ask. Yeah. I'm not trying to stir anything up. I am. I want this. Yeah. We need to stir things up a little bit, because I think we get complacent thinking everything's great, but it's not always, is it?
No.
You've got this new EP.
Yes.
It's lovely.
Everything about that is great.
The EP is great. It just came out.
I'm happy with it.
It's on Misconnection Records, which is a local imprint. Yeah. And what are your plans here? What are you going to do with this thing? You going to tour?
No, I'm taking a different route this time. All the other ones I've toured and kind of given it my all. I think this was a bit more of like an expression of just wanting to like record these songs, because we've been playing them for a few years. I really like them, and I'm playing with a group of people that I find really make them sound the way that I hear them in my head.
Yeah.
And so it's more of like just getting it down on to tape
so to speak.
CD.
Yeah.
And then playing like 3 nice shows kind of around with our friends and family. So doing Toronto. I didn't mean to, but I realized I booked them all at breweries. But it's not I didn't mean to make it like a brewery tour.
I do. Okay.
Do I like beer? Yes.
I'm not trying to make light of anything, but you don't have a problem, do you?
No,
you work at a brewery part-time. Yeah. Breweries are comfortable environments.
Yeah, and they're kind of like a new space to
Seems like shows. A lot of breweries are getting involved in this notion of presenting music and being a music venue in some ways.
Yeah. So it's nice. So we're doing Burdock Brewery in Toronto, and we're doing, well, the one in Guelph is at the E-Bar, but Royal City is going to like sponsor it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got your piano tuning job. Yeah. Everyone's busy. You co-produced this record with my friend Tom Hammerton.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was pretty awesome. Tom was a really great person to work with, and he plays so many different types of keys, and he can just really hear different sounds that I maybe wouldn't think of putting in. And I loved working with him and with Andy, because I'm very picky with the vocals. That's like my kind of main part on it, and I find as soon as I sing something, and whether I thought it was good or bad, both of them thought the same thing. Like we're very
you were on the same page.
So it's nice.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So this is potentially a collaborative unit that might work together again.
Yeah.
Because it worked so well. No, okay. Plus you got to, maybe you and Andy need to, I mean, you're in competition now.
Yeah, I got to talk to him.
So the piano tuning field is heating up.
I saw it on Facebook, so.
He didn't even tell you. That's amazing. Is there a song we can go out from the new EP?
I would love that. I like True For You is like a slower one, but one of my favorites. Or Fire and Bones is fun too.
Fire and Bones?
Yeah.
Okay, why did that come to mind?
It's more like the upbeaty one on the record.
You're kind of flinching and trying to make it more upbeat with your physical being right now. Your shoulders are shrugging. You're like, it's more upbeat. Yeah. Fire and Bones. I mean, that's a very it's like a Game of Thrones kind of image, isn't it? Is that an inspiration?
The revenge.
Is it?
No.
Fire and Bones. That's okay. Maybe we'll just listen to it, and then people can make what they will of it. Well, this is Fire and Bones. Alanna Gurr, thank you for being back on this show.
Yeah, thanks.
And I'm sorry I said you were in a different band.
It's okay. It happens.
I don't know why.
It's a good band, so.
Yeah, well, that's a good band, and Cupcake Duct Tape's a great band, and I wish you the best of luck with The Great Estate.
Thank you.
From their new EP, Stand Still, that was Alanna Gurr and The Great Estate with a song called Fire and Bones. Thanks again to Alanna for being on this show, stopping by CFRU for a conversation about her life and work. Piano tuning, more interesting to me than I thought it would be. Hopefully for you too. Did you know much about piano tuning? I didn't know much about piano tuning. Fascinating. Alanna Gurr, thank you so much for being on the show. This is the 326th episode of Creative Control, which is a podcast available on all your finer podcast platforms: iTunes, Audio Boom, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Overcast, and probably others as well. You can learn more about the show and every single episode of the program at my website, vishkhanna.com. Also, visit patreon.com/creativecontrol to make a flexible monthly donation to the program and view t-shirts that I have as gifts for people who make pledges. Please consider doing that. You can like the show on Facebook. We have a page. You can follow us on Twitter at Vish Creative. You can follow me on Twitter at Vishkana. And a version of this show airs every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time around the world at CFRU.ca, or if you're in the area, at CFRU 93.3 FM in Guelph. This episode would not be possible without our sponsors, the finest pizzeria in Guelph, Pizza Trocadero. Call them for pickup or delivery at 519-829-2444, or check them out at trocaderoguelph.ca. Also, The Bookshelf, an independently owned bookstore, bar, music venue, movie theater, and more, located at 41 Quebec Street in Guelph. Learn more about them at bookshelf.ca. And for the finest coffee anywhere, try Planet Bean, freshly roasted, fair trade certified organic coffee. Visit planetbeancoffee.com for more information about them. All right, that's another episode of this program. Please subscribe to the show wherever you listen to the show. Subscribe to it. Download episodes. Tell your friends about it. Review it, rate it, all those things. It all helps. And otherwise, just if you don't want to do that, just listen. It's enough for me, really. Whatever you got to do. All right, thank you so much. I will talk to you soon. Goodbye for now.